Yeah, can you hear me all right? I'm sh cool. I'm shocked how many people just jumped in the last 10 seconds. You weren't kidding. It's like it went up by, like, 100. That's so cool. Yeah. Hey, everyone. Sounds good. Thanks, Catherine. All right, so I am Max Duggan. If you know my work, you probably know me as one of the composers on Mini Metro alongside Disaster Piece. I've also been on the sound team for Outer Wilds Echoes of the Eye as an assistant to Akash Sakar, and I currently work as a freelance audio director and composer at a new indie studio called Ephemeral Cube. And we're releasing our first game in 2024. I'm super excited about it. Yeah, so today our panel is all about getting started in the game audio industry. I have a panel of a bunch of lovely, super talented people and very good friends of mine here today, and I would love for them to introduce themselves. So why don't we go Eric, Virginia, Kai, and then we'll jump into some questions. Yeah.
Awesome. Hello. I'm Eric Moen. I am a sound designer currently at Bungie, working on the game Destiny 2. I've had pretty much a solid like two and a half year career in game audio ever since graduating college, doing random freelance stuff here and there. I worked for a professor of mine at his audio house called Unlock Audio, and worked on a couple projects there. I worked on a couple of freelance games such as Fallen Angel and Battlecasters. So pretty small names, but if you've heard of them, awesome. Uh, but yeah, that's a pretty much all I got to offer from me. So I'll pop it off to Virginia next. How's right, Virginia?
Hello, can you hear me all right? Everything good? Cool. My name's Virginia Leo, and I'm a composer sound designer, primarily for video games, but I've done things like documentaries and virtual reality experiences. The most notable thing I've done is called The Baby in Yellow. It's a video game made by Team Terrible. I started working for them in 2021, and the game had 10 million downloads already when I started, and now we have over 150 million downloads on Android, iOS, and PC. We just released our newest update on Steam, so you can actually find it right now at early access. Oh, thank you. People are saying they know the game. That's cool. But yeah, I did. Yeah, that's mainly what I do, and I still do it now. So yeah.
Cool. All right. Hey, everyone. I'm Kai. I'm a sound designer for video games, and I've been in the industry for about 5 years now. I spent 4 years as a freelancer working on great games across PC, VR, Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, and now I work for a company called Stillalive Studios, and I've been there for a year as a sound designer. Nice to meet you all. Good to see you.
Cool. Thanks, everyone. All right. So to kick us off with the questions, I was thinking, the panel's titled, like getting started in game audio. And what I think is unique about our industry, because we're in a really weird field, to be honest, is that there's no concrete path into any of this. It's like every time you meet someone who's in game audio and ask how they got started, it's like, oh, I was at a concert in Montreal and then I met a game developer there, and then 3 years later suddenly I'm on League of Legends or whatever. Like, none of it ever makes sense. It's never the same story. So I was curious, what was the path that got you to get your foot in the door in audio? I think, yeah, we could start with Eric, and then, yeah, we'll just kick it off.
Yeah, I I always laugh when I think about the story of like how I got to where I am right now, because it's pretty odd. Um, but I started doing game audio back in college, mainly because I started out in game design and found that I was really bad at that. So I needed to pivot. I needed to pivot really quickly. And I knew a little bit of music just from like high school. I'd learned the guitar at the time and everything. So I was like, sure, I'll give it a shot and try some music for some of like the smaller projects that we had for our design classes, because there wasn't a game audio major. So I stuck with game design as a major and then just focused on game audio with that. And then, that sort of compounded on itself over the next couple of years at school to me being like the audio person in my class, essentially, because no one else was really making it their full focus.
No one did it
And
at DePaul except like the
no
two of
one,
us.
yeah,
Eric and I went to school
exactly.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Max and I were kind of heading up a lot of the audio for our class. Max mostly focusing on music, and then me shifting more towards sound design. And then as I kept doing that, I was just like staying a little bit late in some classes, talking with professors about like how you actually make a career in all of this, and slowly learning here and there, just like to make an audio reel, I have to do some networking here and there. There's events and stuff like that, and sort of dipping my toes into various little things like that. And so after I graduated, I pretty much just kept up with doing audio redesigns, posted on Twitter a bunch, and would occasionally reach out to people at companies that I thought would be good to work at. Bungie being one of them, I reached out to a couple of sound designers because they were pretty active on Twitter at the time, and they were like very nice. They were very nice people. And pretty much that was about it for a couple of years. Over that time, I picked up a couple of freelance gigs, kept in touch with my professor, who ended up starting that audio house, and worked for him for a few months or so. And so it was just a lot of like happy accidents, and my professor giving me work here and there, until eventually, to get the job at Bungie, someone that works there, who's actually a coworker of mine now, I guess, now that I think about it.
You guess.
It still doesn't feel quite real.
Yeah.
But they reached out to me and were like, hey, we just opened up a mid-level position for a sound designer on Destiny 2. I think you'd be a great fit. And they helped me whip up my reel into a much better shape, helped me just like make sure my resume and everything was in line. And then they helped me with a recommendation and everything at the studio. And then it's sort of up to me to go through the rest of the interview process. And somehow things lined up, and I got the job. And I've been there for almost 2 years now. So that's kind of how it worked out. The main takeaway from my story, I think, is mostly just like the social media upkeep was huge for me. The fact that people were somehow still looking at what I was doing. Every once in a while I would post and they would say, oh, that's cool, that's great, and then that would kind of be the gist of the interaction, and it didn't really need to be much more than that, but it kept me in their minds and reminded them that like I was slowly improving over the years, and they could see that I wanted to work at Bungie, or at least in like a sci-fi FPS kind of genre. And so that was I think the bulk of what got me to where I am. I don't know if it's similar for other folks here about the whole social media upkeep, but that was definitely a huge part for me.
Yeah. Cool. I was gonna say, Virginia, you're very focused on like your social.
yeah.
Oh wait, oh sorry, we cut out for a sec. But yeah, your branding on
Go on.
social media is always on point. And that was a big start, or big proponent of your start too, right?
I think the branding honestly came a bit later, when I already established myself a little bit more. But I guess, hold on, I have to start now. I need to think about
No,
it.
you're good. You're good. Yeah.
So, how did I start? Well, I went to university to study sound for games as a degree. I did that for 3 years in the UK. So I studied in a very small place in Bristol, in the UK. I think I already just said that. And it was a BA with honors degree or something. And I come from a piano background, so I've always played the piano. I started playing in 2006, and still play it now. And And yeah, piano gang, nice. and, and yeah, then I went to university to do video game sound because I thought that there was more opportunities in doing that rather than just playing piano, for the rest of my life. So I did that, and while I was at university, I found out about game jams, which is, I'm probably going to say that word 100 times during this, but game jams propelled my entire career. So they're extremely important to me. And yeah, I started doing them. Basically, I started university in September, and I already started doing game jams like a few months after, and I didn't know anything. Like, I barely understood what like a DAW was. Like, I was just starting out, and I still threw myself in. I think that's one of my takeaways too, is just throw yourself in the deep end, even if you have no experience. It's important to get some from somewhere, so everybody starts from somewhere. And yeah, so I started doing a lot of those, Global Game Jam, Nordic Game Jam. I did a ton of those over the years. And I graduated in 2021. And basically, like 1 month after I graduated, I received an email from Team Terrible, and they said that they saw my profile on SoundLister. And I tell everybody, by the way, about SoundLister because nobody really knows it, but soundlister.com, I can put in a link afterwards, is a website where any audio professional can sign up to and say like there's a movie being made or a video. Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, that's the link right there. So make a profile. It's free. You just need to be verified, so there's no bots or anything, And I made a profile in there super quickly. I just, put my name in, said what I do, and I had like a crappy show reel. Like, it was really just generic, and I had nothing to really showcase apart from my game jams. So all I had to show was my game jams that I did over the years. And that got me in. So the craziest part is that, I don't know if you know, but The Baby in Yellow actually came from a game jam. So when the developers saw how many game jams I participated in and the video game they created, what came from a game jam, it kind of seemed like it was a good idea to hire somebody that understands that experience. Even more than maybe just like a well-known composer. Like, it was really important that we shared that kind of understanding of how they work. So yeah, like I got an email and it said literally like, hey, we found you on SoundLister, super random. It's nice to meet you. We have a video game called The Baby in Yellow. It has 10 million downloads currently. Do you want to work on it? And I was like, this is a scam. Like, this is not real. Like, there's no way. I just graduated and I get an email from a video game with 10 million downloads. That is not true. So I looked it up and I found out that Markiplier had played the video game, Jacksepticeye had played the video game, and I was like, this is real. Like, oh my goodness. So I quickly emailed them back and I said, yes, please, let's do an interview. And yeah, smashed it, and I'm still working for them. And ever since then, we've still not met. They're a small indie team up in Scotland. Never met them, always work with them. Hopefully one day we will. But that's my story.
That's so cool. I love how you're promoting game jams now too, of like you've been composing them live. Like, I just saw you at PAX doing it in front of like an audience of like, it's like 100 people. It was insane. Super cool. Dude,
that stress, not to harp on that, but like the stress of like having Markiplier like play your game, that's immense, right? Like, that is crazy.
You had that too, right?
Yeah, it was that was what I was gonna say, is like a game that I worked on called Buddy Simulator 1984 was a game that like a few folks from school that went down the design path more than I did. They ended up working on that together, and then after like a year or so after graduating, they needed some more audio support and reached out to me, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. Seems like a cool game. And it was like one of the more well put together projects from school that I recognized anyways. So I was excited to work on it. And then, yeah, lo and behold, when it came out, like all the big horror game YouTubers are playing it, and like I'm just watching the view count go up and up on the videos, and I'm like sweating. I'm like, oh my goodness, the pressure of just knowing so many people are like looking at something you worked on is crazy.
And now you have Destiny, which is like the epitome of
Yeah.
that. I remember when I flew to Eric's place in Seattle like a couple weeks ago, and yeah, you had like, forgive me if I'm using the wrong term, but it was like a raid going on or something. You had like 5 different streams going of all people like commenting on your work, and so I'm like, oh my god. Yeah.
The Crota's End reprise raid race went on, and that's what I work on mostly is the raid and dungeon content. So I was excited. I got the day off to just watch streamers play the game. But it's scary when it's like this streamer has 70,000 concurrent viewers and this one has 80,000 concurrent viewers, and it's like that for like 8 hours straight. It is mind-bogglingly stressful. It gets to a point where it kind of like overflows and just becomes not stressful again. But it's cool and crazy all at the same time to kind of recognize the impact of your work like that.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah, Kai, what was your intro? It's like, well, yeah, I don't want to tell the story, but
Sure. So I'm unintentionally in this industry. This was not my goal. Originally, I was a session musician, and I also worked as a recording engineer. And then I bumped into a game dev at a metal concert, and they were like, "Yo, we need like audio, your audio, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I did it, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So I ditched everything else and started focusing on that. And from there, I grew like among multiple Discord communities. I was very, very active in a lot of communities, and a lot of people were reaching out because I was like the resident audio person for quite a few of them. None of those games shipped at all. Like nothing ever really made it, but I did get a lot of really valuable experience. It helped me grow my portfolio. And then from that inexperience and lots of music and sound that came from that, like bigger developers started to pay attention and thought the portfolio was cool. So the games got bigger just over time. And that's how I've managed to sustain myself as a freelancer, at least for the last 4 years. It's basically being incredibly active in communities. It really hadn't changed much since then, which is quite cool. And I need to say, Max, you need to tell your story of how you got into the industry, because I think yours is the most unexpected, in my personal opinion.
Oh yeah. So I was I've told this so many times. So I was originally a psychology major in college, and then I flew to Japan the summer of my freshman year with my family. And my younger brother wanted to go to this like weird touristy thing where you make fake ice cream out of wax. And I didn't want to go. I wanted to go to the shrines. My mom was like, you have to go, or blah, blah, blah. So we went, and there was one other family there who happened to be from the States as well. And it turned out this guy there, Steve, was one of the original art directors for the Bungie Halo games. And I was freaking out because I've been such a huge fan of them for so long. I told him I'm a huge fan, that I write a lot of music, and he's like, well, would you ever want to write for a video game? And I'm like, hell yeah, like of course. So when I got home, he emailed me some contacts, and I got to speak to one of the Halo composers, Marty O'Donnell, for 2 hours, and sent him some music, and he convinced me to switch my major. And then it turned out one of Halo's sound designers had just moved to Chicago, where I grew up. So I hit him up, went to his studio, started interning there. And then, I guess Akash Sakar Skyped one of my audio classes in college. I invited him to get grilled cheese with me. We became close friends. And then he introduced me to Disaster Piece when I needed an internship. And the three of us just became really close and started traveling together a bunch. And I became Rich's assistant and started working on Mini Metro and doing like the Spotify versions of all of that music and my own solo stuff. And then doing a bunch of game jam stuff with Eric and our group of friends in Chicago. And then, now I'm here. Yeah, quite bizarre. Very serendipitous. Say, but it's been super
It is
cool.
crazy how you just like bumped into the right people.
Dude, I know. Yeah, we got to Steve and I got to reconnect like in person for the first time since Japan. So it was like 2017, like I think it was like earlier this year we got to see each other. It was so cool. He's like, I tell everyone that story. Like it's just so
Nice.
random. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. But yeah, I think so I'm curious with everyone here, what sustains you through it? Because we have kind of a mix of freelancers in here, and a mix of sound designers versus composers. And sorry, I'm laughing at people's reactions to the grilled cheese and Japan trip. It's like I'm taking notes to do this too. But yeah, that's why there's like no clear. But yeah, I'm curious what sustains you through, because we have so many ups and downs. We have mixes of freelancing versus AAA in-house stuff. What keeps you going, either like career-wise or just personal philosophy? I don't know.
I'll jump in quickly and just point out that, I'm composer and freelance. Kai is sound designer and studio, and Eric is sound designer studio. Max is kind of like a mix of both, if I'm correct. And I just wanted to tell people, like, maybe they don't know this, but I think composers tend to be more freelance and sound designers tend to be more in studio. So if you're aiming to be a composer or a sound designer, you should maybe like look into how to freelance, or how to, what your goal is in mind. Because as composers, we tend to be more freelance because there's not really any in-house composers as much as they used to be, maybe back in like the 90s.
How I wish there were.
So industry has changed a lot for us, but being freelance definitely has its pros and cons. And I don't know, what were we? Oh yeah, how do we keep? What was the question again? How do we? Keep
what sustains you through it? Yeah.
Sustains me through my career.
Yeah, I mean, so it's Kai and I were talking about before this started. There are like so many ups and downs to game audio, and I guess for people, like you and I, we have to constantly network and go to different like game dev events and stuff. But I think the approach would be really different for people like Eric and Kai being in studios. I don't know how much of a networking presence you have.
Exactly. Like with the networking stuff, I mean, absolutely. If you want a sustainable freelance career, I mean, freelancing is like a roller coaster. Some days you just have so much. I think I really like the way Akash puts it. He says it's like seasons. So you have like spring is like, when you're planting your seeds, and then that's kind of like, kind of networking and things. And then summer is where things are growing and it's all kind of coming together. And then the harvest at fall is like when you really reap all those rewards of what you've been doing. And then winter is just a dry spell, because you get a lot of dry spells, everything's frozen, nothing's growing. It's just and those are the moments when you're not networking, those are the moments when you should be like practicing your craft, I feel like. So honestly, there's a million things you can do, I feel like, to sustain your career, and it's not just about networking. There's loads and loads of little pieces that come together, I feel like. But yeah, networking is obviously a huge one. Keeping up to date with like what events are happening around you, and if you don't want to go outside, there's always events online. So I mean, there's really just a million options, and I always say to people, you have like almost no excuse, because like everything's free. There's so many resources online. All you need is a lot of spare time to learn and sit at a computer for ages and just learn about things, and motivation to actually like pursue this career. And I feel like one of the things that makes me keep wanting to pursue it is when you start to see people maybe giving compliments on like, oh, the sound was really good in this, or I really like the music. Or when you start hearing things like this, it gives you a lot of like, oh, I'm like actually helping the game be better. So like, it's not about, oh, my music's great. It's like, it's more of a humbling experience, I feel like, that makes you think, wow, like I've helped make this game better than it could have been, maybe, I don't know if I explained that correctly and if I answered the question
no, that's great.
very well. But that's my take.
It's interesting from a non-freelance perspective, I guess, how I sustain, because it's very different from that. I'm not very focused anymore on the networking and trying to meet new people, because it just sort of happens naturally. Just by knowing my coworkers, they know more people who then know more people, and then at some point someone's like, hey, you want to come grab lunch X and Y people are in town for Z reason, you know? And I'll just say, yeah, that sounds great. And then next thing I know, I'm meeting like a couple of sound designers that work at like, I don't know, Insomniac or something like that. And it's like, oh, it's very casual. I'm not really actively seeking it out or anything. I'm just here to have like a delicious lunch.
Dude, if you got on
but-
Spider-Man, oh my god.
That would be crazy. That would be
Yeah.
fun too. That'd be so much fun. But yeah, like that sort of stuff just sort of happens, and like my networking ends up just being my coworkers in a weird way. So it feels odd to even just call it networking. It's more of just like I know these people and we are getting very close because we work on the same thing all the time. Especially with Bungie and Destiny 2 as a live service game, we're always like consistently shipping and working on something new. So there's a lot of just communication between one another on that. But in terms of like stuff outside of work, I still occasionally will post on social media, like on Twitter or on Instagram or something like that. Occasionally might like reach out to a sound designer that I think is doing cool work and say like, hey, I think this is cool. Just keeping my name, I guess, out there in a way, just in case, because yeah, you never really know with the games industry in general where stuff is going to be within a year, that kind of thing. Like even though I am in a studio, I don't know, maybe Destiny 2 for some reason explodes and all of a sudden I have nothing to work on, you know.
Really explodes.
Yeah, it just poof explodes, like I don't know, it vanishes from the earth, and then now I have to figure something else out. So I'm still very much keeping those options open. Of like, okay, what's next? Because I mean, I'm only 25. I've only worked at Bungie for a couple of years. It's definitely not going to be the final job I ever have, even though it maybe is like the first full-time thing that I have. So just keeping that in mind of like, okay, I'm here for a while, maybe not forever, and just making sure I keep in touch with people and keep it friendly. Like I'm not trying to weasel a job out of anyone in the future, but just making sure people know who I am in that respect. And that, I don't know, it's also just fun to know people in that regard as well. Like people have great sound design tips if you just ask them, like, oh, what did you do yesterday to get this sound? And they're like, oh, I flipped upside down a plunger and then stuck it to my ceiling. And I'm like, that's crazy. I should have thought of that myself. And then now I'm flipping plungers upside down.
You make guns out of macaroni and cheese live on Twitch. Yeah.
That was the thing. Yeah, when I was streaming on Twitch, I made the plasma cutter, I think is what it's called, from Dead Space.
Oh yeah.
And I like used some mac and cheese recordings that I just recently recorded and kind of morphed that into like a squishy, lasery sound.
So just mac and cheese recordings. I just casually record this. I want to let you guys know, like hanging out with Eric is so we've been friends for, I mean, like technically like a decade, but like when we hang out now, even like when we're at a party or like with a big group of friends, he has like a field recorder on him. Like he just embodies like the sound design aesthetic. Or we're kayaking. We're kayaking and he's like is sitting underneath a tree like by some birds just standing still. I've called him to hang out before and he's been like, no, it's raining, so I gotta stand under this umbrella with a field recorder for the next hour, but I'll hit you up. That was an actual conversation we had.
Yeah, I did do that.
I don't know.
Those turned out great. Those are always the ones that turn out the best too. But yeah, I ended up making that and it just got in front of the right eyes at the right time. And it was just like a funny enough story, I guess. And one of my coworkers, Adam, he just told people about that at Bungie and they were like, oh, that's funny. And that was about all it really needed to be. It wasn't anything crazier than that. But I don't know if it's different for you, Kai, still being...
Oh, I take one everywhere. Still, yeah. I was at the beach recently and I was just like, those waves are good. So just set up a recorder and record those. I remember like even on a film set once, because we had like 8 sound people on a film set, and for whatever reason they were setting off a cannon, and we heard the cannon, and you could watch just all 8 of our eyes like light up, and every single sound person just sprinted over to where that was happening. So we're all just sound goblins. We're all the same.
That is so accurate. A little gremlin just with a little microphone.
I was gonna say I'm the opposite. Like I like sound design, but I don't like Foley and I don't like field recording. What I like to do is if you just give me your sounds, I love to edit them and cut them and put effects. Like I love layering them. Like I like designing the sound, but I don't like creating it from the beginning.
I'm with you on that. Like, Kai, I wanted to say on networking, you are kind of a god at it. I mean, like, I've seen you in action when we've been in London together and stuff. But I would love, for people who don't know you, your cloud, or what earned you the title is like Kai, oh my God, sorry, Kai the Cloud Boy. I couldn't say that together in our Slack group. Like, I'd love for you to tell that story.
So I used to just network with anyone about anything. You could just bring up random like subjects and see if a conversation can actually be formed from it. And why I ended up being called Kai the Cloud Boy is because I started a conversation about clouds with a game developer just like out of the blue, and then that got me a gig. So yeah, it just showed that really just if you can just sustain a fun conversation with people, they just relate to you a lot, and that can get you quite far.
Yeah, wasn't it literally just like he posted a cool cloud and you just wrote, "Hey, that's a cool cloud," and then you DM'd back like, "Hey, do you do sound?"
Yeah, it was. I think it was as straightforward as that. It was just a really, really
Yeah.
quick conversation about clouds that turned into sound.
And
That's
I
why
think,
I was gonna say, like, it's important to, I think, not just talk about like music and sound, but be able to talk about interesting topics of like random stuff with people, because sometimes people like work all day doing that thing and they don't want to keep talking about it. So like having
Yeah.
conversations about like just life in general, like I prefer to do that more than like nerd out about like music theory. I would never I would never, but I would
Jesus.
probably
Yeah.
talk about video games a lot maybe, but not too much about like my career unless I'm asked, you know.
That's such a good point, because yeah, a lot of people, sorry, people are saying you guys have lives to talk about. And so, um, but yeah, I don't know, I personally, I don't like talking about sound and like nerdy stuff like that too much. And I found most people, like most peers in the industry, don't like that as well. And a lot of the times, like people come at you of like, you can tell when they're kind of coming up to you of like, "Oh, could you get me a job? Could you do this? Blah, blah, blah." And it gets it's a little freaky. At PAX, I had a few people I was like, stay away from me. But because there's, I don't know, it gets uncomfortable when someone's just trying to kind of like use you to get a leg up in their career. But if you just come at someone, like everyone's been memeing the grilled cheese thing, but it's true. If you just like, I don't know, just hang out with people. Like I invite people to play Halo with me. That's kind of like my thing. And it's so weird that like people just be like, "Yeah, let's do it." Like that's how Disaster Piece and I became close. We just talked about life and played through the Halo 1 campaign together. But I think, yeah, just kind of actually going to seek friends. I will never reach out to someone just for a job. I only reach out to people who I genuinely want to be friends with, and I think that has been a good philosophy for like life in general, but also finding gigs in this industry.
Yeah, because
Same
we're
here.
all
That's
very
basically.
like genuine
sorry,
people.
Oh, yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, like,
Yeah.
we're all very genuine people. And even the people that are like at the highest, like we're talking like the biggest composers in the video game industry right now, they are just very humble people. Like it's about just genuine honesty, and like if you don't really vibe with someone, let's say, like you don't have to talk to them just because they're like they made the music for, I don't know, like God of War or something. Like it doesn't matter who they are. It's just about the vibes.
Yeah,
If you really connect with someone, you should, and it doesn't matter how high up they are on the hierarchy. And some of the people like at GDC, for example, one of the composers from Monkey Island, like he's just one of like the gods of like video game music that started this whole thing. Like if those people were doing their jobs back then, maybe we wouldn't be doing it right now. So like they're like the grandfathers of video game music, and they're the most humble people. Like they just treat it like it's completely normal. They don't think of themselves as some grandiose Hans Zimmer. It's just like, oh yeah, I just did the music for Monkey Island, and that was a lot of fun back then. And it's like, that's amazing that these people are around to talk to, and yeah, just having genuine conversations, and yeah, just being nice. Obviously.
That exact thing is the thing that sustained me throughout the industry, especially freelancing, is the fact that so many people in this industry are like so down to earth and just have so many interesting stories to tell, that it is the thing that's like kept me going and actually grown my network. Is because everyone is just absolutely just great to talk to, and it's just cool to hang out with people. And knowing that you end up being a part of a community like that is a really good reason to stick around, I found.
Yeah, it's such a small community too. Like everyone hangs out with each other. And like when you go to like PAX or GDC, you run into like so many people that like, you see in just these small like online audio communities and stuff. And it's really, I don't know, it's really lovely. Like as someone who's worked in film and in games, games has been by far the like sweeter, kinder, more lovely industry. Film sucks. I don't know. I'll say it, but like I don't know. It is nice that like overall people, in my experience at least, have been like very welcoming. Yeah. This might be a little off topic, but I'm kind of curious. Is anyone, because now like we've all had some games that have been pretty prominent at this point, or at least had like little cult followings and stuff. I'm curious, has anyone had any like weird fan interactions with like people or like fans of games you've worked on?
I don't think
Eh,
weird.
or like
Like,
cool, sweet.
Yeah, I've done a couple Q&As at the office,
Yeah.
where folks, I believe that donate to the Bungie Foundation, can come into the office and do like a little group Q&A. I wasn't super in tune as to how that fully works, but I was a backup talker for the audio Q&A. Because the people that usually do it were both out of office. So I just had to wing it one day, and I met with a huge group of like 25 fans of Destiny. And they just had like a million audio questions, and it was very like nice. It was very just heartwarming for them to all like be very curious about the audio.
Oh.
But the one person stood out to me, and they asked me how I made the audio for not this current season, but the last season of Destiny. There's like some underwater mechanics, and there's a pressure mechanic to where if you're underwater too long, you're essentially like you kind of implode is the implication. And so I made some sounds of just like some metal creaking and things like that, and like air rushing back into your suit. In the moment, I thought it was pretty okay. Like it was fine audio work. But this person says to me in that Q&A, like, "Oh wow, like that's so cool to hear that you're the person that made that, because those sounds are so realistic." And they kept they kept talking and ended up saying that they were in the Navy, and that the sounds that I made were so accurate that it reminded him of being in submarines, like submerging into
Oh my
super
God.
low depths. And I was like, "Whoa!" First off, thank you for saying that it sounds good, because I've never been in a submarine before, let alone that far underwater. So I was just purely winging it off of what I thought sounded cool. And he was like, "Yeah, it sounds just spot on," and it was just the most incredible, like most respectful and accurate sound design I've ever heard. And that's like gonna stick with me for the rest of my life. I think just that one person being like, "Yeah, this was killer." Someone I don't even know, I've never met, may never meet again, but that was just an incredible fan interaction to have that one time. And that's like a little thing that keeps me going too. I'm like, oh yeah, people do listen to it, and occasionally, it means a lot to certain people. So I guess that's my little fan story that I can share.
I don't think anyone's gonna beat that. I was just
Yeah.
gonna say I've had like a few kids that are fans of the Baby in Yellow send me covers and like orchestral arrangements of my music, and I thought that's really
cute.
wholesome.
That's
Yeah.
And then like
cute.
people playing it on guitar, on the piano, and
Aw.
it's like really sweet. But like nothing as cool as that.
You
Just
need to find
wholesome, very wholesome.
some kids that are
Nice.
like virtuosos that are just sitting there
Yeah,
playing like
I actually
Beethoven,
have.
and
There's a
then
guy, he's called Steven, and he keeps sending me like covers of my stuff, but like very well arranged. Like, oh, it's just, yeah, he sends me like literally the scores of what he does, and it's just all like
Whoa.
arrangements of my music from the game. And I don't even think he's a fan of the game, he just likes my music. So like that was quite
nice.
nice. Yeah, he's great.
Awesome.
That's so cool. Yeah, Eric, that Navy thing is insane. I don't know. I had someone like, and I want to, someone the other day DM'd me and said they're going to send me, I haven't gotten it yet, but they really like some of my solo music, like my latest single, like Where the Planes Become Stars. And they're like, I'm going to send you a video of me yo-yoing to it because it means that much. I was like, you know what?
That rocks.
Like, yeah, right. I'm like that's sick. They also said and I'm gonna draw some pictures of you and Disaster Piece together for Mini Metro. And I was like, huh, well, you know, like,
That's so
yeah, that's
unique.
so random. Like, thank you.
They sound like they're a bigger fan of your music than I am, so I need to up my game.
Oh my god. Yeah, I see. I remember seeing the streams of, well, you listen to like mine and Eric's Windfall EP and then the remix we did for A Short Hike. And there's just like from before like the games like took off a bit more, I could see like your one small town like in Wales where like we just get like 10 streams for
Yeah,
Windfall.
yeah.
Oh, Kai's listening. Yeah. That's so cool. Oh my god. So, we're getting kind of close to Q&A time. I'm wondering, do we, Catherine, do we have time for another question, or should we jump straight into Q&A? Oh, you're here. Hey.
Hello.
Hello.
So we have a few questions, but I think you can go ahead and ask a last question. And we'll go to Q&A. Yeah, just go ahead. If you have another question to ask, go ahead, and then we'll like follow up with questions from the community.
I guess I was wondering what.
I was gonna say,
I don't know.
bring
Yeah.
up a. I don't know if you're stuck. I can bounce in.
No, I have some, but I think we'll go rush through the Q&A because they're like bigger, deeper ones. So
Okay.
I think we should do the Q&A instead to miss.
Okay.
two at a
Okay.
time. Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that my voice is heard on Twitch right now because they didn't hear me the first time. So I'm just gonna wait for the confirmation here so that okay, everyone hears me. Amazing. Okay, so I'll start from the beginning. Someone asks, in animation, people make demo reels. In art, people make carousels. And what about music?
For demo reels?
There's
Yeah,
Play
I'd say,
Yeah, you do demo reels for music too, but just don't make them 10 minutes long. So like that's the thing, is that the problem with music with a demo reel is difficult because music you need to allow time for it to like progress and stuff. So I'd say I keep my show reels a maximum to 3 minutes at a push, and just try to fit in as much as you can within that. So I wouldn't have like a whole minute of music in a, I would try and splice it up into as many things as possible. And yeah, please don't make them long, because the longer you make them, like the less people will be inclined to really sit and watch them, because people don't have time to watch a show reel that's like longer than 2 minutes. I mean, our attention spans already when we're on our phones are like 10 seconds long. So you need to bear in mind,
I totally agree. All right, do we have, oops. Oh, is there somewhere I can read the questions? Or, oh, Catherine, oops.
I'm so sorry. Oh my god. I was talking in the void. Here are the questions.
No, you're fine.
Here are the questions. So the second question, I posted it in the green room. It may seem like a silly question. There is no such thing as a silly question, but I don't really see posts about this. How do you publicize how to publicize your portfolio? Like, how do you show people on social media, and which are the best in your opinion?
Instagram and Spotify, and then a personal website, I think. Like, I send my demo reel, I send a link to my Instagram because I post a lot of music there. And then, I send a playlist to my Spotify account because that has, a good reach of like my solo game music stuff and personal, like, or solo music stuff and my soundtrack stuff. Be the same for AAA, Eric? Do you do?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I haven't updated my reel since I got hired, but my reel from when I got hired is just like a minute-long sound design reel on YouTube that is linked on my website, and I would link my website in my resume and also just in my like in my application too. Sometimes the web form has a little spot for a website, so I just link that there, and it's the first thing you see on my website, so you can't miss it. It's literally just the home page is my name and then my reel, and that's about it. So that's the way that I'd share that around. I would post it on Twitter too. Like I posted stuff in progress all the time. But I wouldn't really say that like my Twitter is the go-to for my reel, but it's a go-to to see what I'm working on or just any sounds that I've been making lately. But everything is much more organized on my YouTube channel and more specifically on my website, just by like category and what game I've worked on. So in my opinion, for sound design, at least if you're like applying for a lot of in studio positions, that's kind of the way to go with it, is just making a simple enough website, and just having it look professional with your reel and other supplementary videos on there. You should watch Power Up Audio's Real Talk. They got a great Twitch stream. I think it's every Wednesday, right?
That's a really great one. The demo reels. You can even submit your own demo reel, and they'll like criticize it and stuff if you're brave enough.
Yep. I watched those streams for months and just updated my website alongside of those, making it look better and better each time with their advice.
I did the exact same thing as Eric. I watched a lot of Power Up Audio, and I just tailored my website to that, which is just a big block that just has my show reel, which is about a minute long. And then sometimes I used to link people to my Instagram because it was very active, and I would do a lot of up-to-date small sound design clips, which was just quite easy to scroll through. I found that quite useful for freelancing as well, with just flicking through that kind of stuff, because that really gets people's attention.
Nice. I'm sorry. Okay. Like I always struggle to just like, okay, moving on to the next question. Okay. So, did you share your reel or portfolio or CV online so we would know what a good example would be? Oh, okay. So, I guess the question.
I just posted
yeah,
mine
I see
in there
Virginia.
if anybody wants to use it as a reference.
Cool. Does anyone else have their portfolio or CV or reel online? You can go ahead and share it in the chat.
Yeah, I
I'll
could
drop our
post
website
mine.
down there.
While we do that, so the next question would be, how do you build enough confidence in your work to actually ask people to work with you?
I think that question needs to be inverted, because it's how much how do you get confidence so people ask to work with you, not I don't ask to work with people. I wait for people to ask to work with me. Does that make sense? I would spin that the other way around, because you want to keep building yourself up, so people, I feel like, want to work with you rather than going around and asking like, oh, please give me a job. I don't know. I think that's maybe a freelance idea. I think maybe for like somebody like that works in a studio, you probably do want to make applications to, I don't know. That's not my place.
No, that's like a good way to put it.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't think I've ever quite reached out besides maybe an application, like directly to people asking if they want me to work on their game. I've usually just put myself out there enough, and if people like follow me back, I just assume that they're looking at things that I'm posting and keeping up with stuff, or at least having it occasionally scroll by their feed, that I'm reminding them that I exist and I'm an option if they need to reach out for someone to do sound design for. But yeah, I don't think I've ever quite needed to reach out to anyone specifically, or at least like seek someone out in that way.
I mean, it makes sense. I think Virginia has a good point in just like make yourself like kind of a welcoming person for people to work with you, instead of just like kind of asking around. It's a lot less aggressive as well for like the person that probably doesn't have enough like that much time to like talk to you like that. Okay, so let's Okay, what are your guys' thoughts on solo versus team jams? Do you prefer or recommend participating in one over the other?
Only solo jam if you can do everything. Do not solo jam if you don't know how to program or draw or make audio. I highly just recommend finding a team. Also, I think finding a team is a whole point of jams because you get to meet other people, right? You get to meet, like, actually my so people that have seen my brand now, the cat piano, I met that artist because I did the Nordic game jam, and she was in my team, and I met her, and now she does all of my art from all my brands because she's incredible. So I don't really recommend solo jamming unless like you are just, you know, that's your thing, go ahead, I do it. But if it's like your first few jams, I think the whole fun of a game jam is meeting people and doing it together. Yeah.
I also 100% endorse team jams as well, and I've gotten quite a lot of clients by doing that as well. They just feel like, oh, you did really good on this one jam. It was really nice working with you. You seem like someone I could work with for the next 2 years on a project or something, you know?
I was just gonna bring up one more thing because you know, I'm actually creating a guide to game jams. So I don't know how many of you like in the audience right now have already done them before or don't even know what a game jam is, but I am creating a document and it's free to download. And I'm just gonna pop in the link, but it's not quite out yet, but it might be out either today or tomorrow. And just save that link because there's so many like useful tips and advice on like doing game jams and even the history of like if you're interested in what like how did they happen, when did the first one happen, and there's just a lot of like fun facts in there and things that you might be interested in. So yeah, feel free to look into that when it's out and keep up to date with, you know, when it should come out hopefully today. We'll see.
Awesome. Yeah, I see it in the chat. Perfect. So we're gonna like skip a few questions because we have only like roughly 7 minutes left. Any recommendations on field recorders? That is a question I am curious about too.
That is a great question. Kai's getting up, I think, to go grab one. And I can reach over and actually grab the same one. I have my
Yeah, look at that.
H6, yeah.
Yeah, it's a
my little-
H6. Yeah.
My shotgun, stereo shotgun attachment on there. But that was the first one I got. Definitely a little, like, in my opinion, maybe a little pricey, but it's lasted me the whole time that I've been doing audio. Like, all the extra inputs on it has phantom power, the line out, the headphone out, all of the just like functionality with it, and the little modules on top are totally good enough to get decent recordings with and all of that. So highly recommend that one. The mic that I keep with me all the time is a Zoom H1N, and that's also just great. It's like it's very, very small, and you can just kind of bring it wherever. It's not like the best, most insane sound quality, but it gets the job done, for sure, as like a little handheld recorder.
Cool. Let's see. So actually, Max, would you like to kind of read through the questions and pick a few?
Where can I read through them?
So go in the green room. I
Green
put them
room.
all in the chat.
Oh, okay, let's see. You mentioned social media can be vital to networking. One thing that puts me off about social media is that platforms rise and fall. Their algorithms change and there can be risks of material being stolen. What would you suggest a good, healthy approach to using social media for networking is? Sorry, I don't know how social media heavy. How do I get back to the main stage? Oh, I'm here. Okay. I don't think any of us are crazy social media heavy, but I think keeping up with the big ones like TikTok, Instagram, and then if you're already established on Twitter, keep up with it. If you're not, I mean, Twitter is kind of going through some stuff right now that has made a lot of game devs leave. You know, but I think, I don't know, the way that I got comfortable with it was I just started making these like little scoring the world videos where I would like take videos of places that I traveled to, edit them together, and then write little soundtracks to them. And then just posting like a few things like that kind of got me a little bit of an audience and got me comfortable posting music. And just I got the ball rolling from there. And then posting stories made it easy for me to, kind of reach an audience, but not have to put in like as much effort. Like it just reminds people that I exist if I post pictures of cool birds or Lake Michigan and stuff. And then that has helped me get streams, oddly enough. But yeah, I don't think you need to worry about, platforms like dying necessarily yet, because we can't predict that. But I think as long as you have a somewhat professional looking social media where like at least like if someone's like, where can I find you, as long as you have a location for that, that's what's important about it. You don't have to be like crazy social media heavy unless you live super far away from a game audio hub or anything like Seattle or LA or anything. But I don't know, I just try not to overthink it and try to just have a little bit, or just a place for people to go find your stuff.
Yeah, I totally treat my social media as like a little catalog of just what I've worked on. I'm not really expecting it to be like getting 1 million likes or anything like that. I don't really think I can with how much I post anyways. But it's great if someone's like, hey, what are you working on? And even if they're just curious and don't even ask me, they can just check my Twitter and see like a couple videos, and that's about it. So totally treat it as like a catalog more than like an actual like social media game kind of thing.
That's good advice, actually. Like using, like just having a catalog rather, like seeing it as a catalog. I think most people are like kind of afraid to just like, oh no, it's a social media. I need to do social media. So like having.
Yeah,
I
I don't
think
think
like
I
it's the
ever.
opposite. Yeah, I feel like you should like people need to be very like aware of what they're posting, because I think we've gotten so used to making posts like that we'll just say whatever's at the top of our heads, and I think that we need to remember that everybody's watching, so do not just put mindless garbage. Like be careful and be mindful. Like it's okay to post memes, it's okay to do it sometimes, but if you are just like literally posting about your life every day, like I feel like that shows a little bit of like maybe you should, why are you spending so much time doing that? Like shouldn't you be spending time maybe working on something? Like it shows where your mind is at. So I think be careful of what you're posting, and just remember that it's a tool. Like use it as a tool. Don't let it consume you and be like, oh, this is, I have to post a picture of what I'm eating right now. Like you don't have to do that, it's okay. Just relax and just treat it like this is a business. I am a business. So if I was you don't see like businesses posting certain things, you have to really cater to your audience and remember who you're trying to get. What attention are you trying to receive? And you never know who's looking. And that's the other thing. Like keep it clean. If you have pictures from like 10 years ago, like drinking, like delete them. Like that's my advice. Like don't keep those things. It's your digital footprint, and those things will stay there forever. So just curate it as much as you can. You don't have to take any of my advice, but it's just like this is how I treat myself, because it's, as a freelance especially, like I am my own boss. So if somebody in my company was doing things that weren't professional, you fire them. So like if you are the boss, you need to be as professional as possible, but also have that slight element of like humanity. So it's okay to post a picture of like, I'm on holiday, look at this place, that's okay. Just keep a healthy balance. And one thing I was going to say, I remember when Kai, you told me, you were like, oh, do you have a personal and a business Instagram? And I was like confused because I didn't even realize like people separate like those things, because I find that it's easier for me to keep just very business and like 10% personal, but some people like literally separate the two things. I thought was interesting.
Yeah, it is very interesting how people will like separate these two. Like I see the benefit of it, but also like it depends on what you want to do and like what you want to attract as an audience. And if you want to separate those. So if it's something that you want to do, of just like, hey, I want to have like a personal life as well, but I want to showcase it to the world, Having a separate personal account is a good idea, actually, because like sometimes it will like overwhelm your professional kind of value, especially as freelance. We can take a last question, Max, and then we can wrap it up.
Last question. Let me see. So sorry, switching between these tabs. And oh, green room. That's right. Okay, Catherine, you had a question. See, I have a question if there is time.
Oh no!
Yeah.
So this question is from Twitch, from Alex's. So
Oh wait, I thought that was from me.
sorry, I'm so sorry. I just copy pasted.
Okay, if there's time, a lot of the sound design reels, including mine, are geared towards. Oh yeah, this is totally not you. AAA gameplay and cutscenes. When looking to work with indie devs, would you use the same reel to show your work, or put together a reel of redesigns from indie games? Oh, so okay. I think catering your reel is a good thing. I don't think you need to be like, oh, I won't show any of my AAA stuff because I'm applying to an indie game. Like, if you have like, something like League or like Destiny, on your reel, don't like hide that. Like, I think that's a really important portfolio piece, and it shows that like, it shows a range, and it shows that you can ship something really valuable. But yeah, if like you're applying to like a kind of cozy game type role, I wouldn't be sending like battle orchestra stuff or anything. Like, definitely, like, make something that is more geared towards the job that you're applying to, for sure. Yeah.
I completely agree. And I've even gone like the lengths of making custom show reels for certain games that I know that I really want to work on, and like teams that I think I'd really enjoy working with, and especially like tailoring my own social media content to match what they're looking for, as well as something else I've done, which then just shows, oh yeah, this person can actually do the things that we need for this job. So yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, for applying it at Bungie, I completely reworked my reel and focused on it being just like guns and explosions and sci-fi elements, and ditched just about anything that I could that wasn't that. And I would definitely not submit that reel to something like an Animal Crossing thing or something like that. It would, like, they would know I could do good sounds, but it would probably not be the sounds they're looking for, which is more of a concern. I will say, as like a caveat, I did apply to Bungie with a Destiny 2 redesign in my reel, and that was maybe not the smartest. I would probably avoid having a redesign of the game that you're applying to, or like a game of the company that you're applying to, because I did that, and then the recruiter, when they called me, they were like, hey, by the way, did you mean to do that? Like, that was really gutsy of you to have that in there. And I was like, oh, yeah, it was meant to be in there, but if it was bad, that's my bad. And they're like, well, it's fine because it sounded good, but if it sounded just a little bad, it was probably going to be just my application in the trash. So thankfully that worked out, but it's not always going to work out, and I would not take that risk again in the future if I can avoid it.
Gutsy is good sometimes, though. Just saying.
Also true. Gutsy is good sometimes.
Is that it? Is that all we have time for? Or Catherine, I think you're muted again.
I am muted, Mon Zero. Okay.
Go into the void.
So
yeah. No, you're fine. Yeah.
So like when I click on it, it doesn't always, like, it's not always responsive. But yeah, so if you guys have time, we could go over for like maybe like 10 minutes and then like wrap it up. But it's really up to you. I'm here. And I'm thinking our audience is here too, so don't hesitate. So what do you think?
I guess if anyone has, I'll look at the green room again. Let's see. I think we covered a lot of the questions have kind of similar topics. Chat, if you guys have like anything else you want to throw in right now, I'll take a look. I don't know. Can you guys see the green room? To my fellow
No,
panelists.
no, no, no,
please?
no, no, no. The
Oh,
green
it's
room
just
is for
me.
us. Yes.
Oh, whoa. So exclusive. Let me see. All right, I've only done Foley and 8-bit. Oh, okay. I've only done Foley and 8-bit music before. What's the best way to start moving into sound design with only bare minimum experience? Eric, I think you'd be the most qualified to answer this one.
It's funny, I was gonna bounce this one to Kai as well, but
Yeah,
I can
both of you. Yeah.
I can like to me that's not bare minimum experience. Like if you've got experience in audio, you're already doing pretty well with Foley and 8-bit music and stuff like that. If you know how to use a DAW, if you know how to like EQ stuff in a nicer way and layer things, like you're already miles ahead of people with what I would think would be minimum experience. But improving on that is just doing it more and more, like doing a redesign here and there. Nothing crazy, like don't go trying to achieve like a 1-minute redesign every day. I was doing stuff that was like 5 to 10 seconds. 10 seconds is kind of pushing it. I was averaging at the time when I was really working on redesigns about an hour for every second of redesign, depending on the content as well. But like say at a 5-second clip, that's 5 hours of work. So just keeping in mind that way of like how much time I was really committing to things and just trying to like finish as many little small projects as I could there. If you really wanted to like learn a new skill to improve with as well, like middleware is a great thing to learn about for sound design, especially for games. It's like Fmod or Wise are the two big ones. I went the Wise route because I wanted to do AAA development, and I knew the studios that I'd be applying for were using Wise. But you can totally go the Fmod route, and I know a lot of indie games use Fmod that way. So that's a route you could take as well. Just, have some improvement if you don't know how to use middleware already. But I'm curious how Kai might answer this one about starting out.
So I completely agree with what Eric said. You have more experience than you think, for sure. There's a lot of things in your experience that you'll notice will cross over with sound design, I think. When it comes to starting out in like sound design and transitioning to it, one thing that really kept me motivated and accountable was doing a lot of sound design challenges. So when I first like started off in the industry, I'd team up with friends and be like, okay, we have this 5-second clip of this spider or something. Let's just do sound design to that, and then in a week's time, we'll just review what we did. There's a lot of Discord servers that do that as well. I know the one that for the company I work for, actually Stillalive Studios, does sound design challenges. I know Blip Sounds does sound design challenges. And I think Game Dev London still does sound design challenges. So those are really good ways of holding you accountable. And then actually a good way of building up your showreel. You have like an hour to make something, and then from there you can refine it in your own time. So having other people hold you accountable, teaming up with others, doing challenges will definitely help you transition quite quickly.
Totally, yeah. Those sound design challenges were fantastic for keeping me accountable as well when I was doing them with Stillalive. Those were great.
So many things you learn within having the pressure of an hour to make something. You're like, okay, I'll just slap 100 OTTs on this one sound of a sea lion. Oh wow, it's a really good laser. You never know, and then you just save those tricks for later.
Yeah, and if it doesn't work, it's only an hour down the drain, and maybe someone else that's showcasing theirs, they had a great sound design. You can message them later, or they'll explain it in the moment and say, I did this, that, and the other, and you're like, wow, that's crazy. I would have never thought of that. And so those are just a wealth of knowledge in those for yourself and others, for sure.
All right,
Yeah.
is that? We got so many good questions in the last like minute. Yeah.
So what you guys can do is answer questions offline as well. We don't necessarily need to answer them all live, especially that everyone has things to do. So are you comfortable in ending the panel now, or do you want to take a last question?
Oh yeah, we can end it now. I think also all of us are pretty accessible online too. So I would say we could all, Catherine, what would be a good place to, I guess, post links to our stuff? If people do want to follow up, I'm happy to, answer
so
questions and stuff.
there is like a channel called Event chat just above the main stage. So you can go ahead and all our guests, to be clear, chat. So you can share all of your links there so that people can easily access it. And yeah, so what I like to ask to conclude our panel is like any last words, words of advice, encouragement, or like whatever you have in mind for all of our guests. Starting with you, Eric.
Oh boy. You all got this. You are all amazing. If you are doing any little bit, that is much better than not doing it at all, I would say. Yeah, there's always gonna be ups and downs, but the ups always have shown above the downs for me. So just stick with it. Sometimes it takes time, and that's okay. Everyone's journey is different. Especially when it comes to the games industry and game audio specifically as well. So just keep trucking along. You got this. You're doing probably way better than you think you are. We're always our harshest critics of ourselves. So that's my spiel. Do you want me to pass it off to someone? I can do that.
Yes. Go.
All right, I'm Popcorn, Virginia.
So I was just gonna say, like, the people that are like still watching this now, and the fact that you just joined this today to watch this means that you are actively trying. So like you are taking this like a step at a time, and that's all of what it's about. Just show up to these things, you know, keep doing this stuff, and yeah, like you have such a great community. Like video game people are just the best. Like everybody is super lovely. Like you have so many positive people around you, and just keep making friends. And you know, everybody supports each other here. Nobody's, you know, trying. It's not a competition. No one's trying to beat you or anything. It's just, you know, you're doing your best. Keep doing it, and you know, have faith, have faith, and hope that you'll get there. And if you haven't worked on a video game yet and you really want to get like your first video game job, I mean, you might not have like the first video game job, but just try out game jams, because at least with a game jam, you'll have like your name on a game, right? It's not like a fully released video game or anything. It hasn't sold 1 million copies, but you've worked on a game essentially. You didn't get paid for it, but it's a game and it will really show. And yeah, just keep doing that, and good luck to everyone.
Kai.
So, like the film writer Taika Waititi says, staring at a blank page for 8 hours still counts as writing. So, like, just keeping up that effort, even if you think it's tiny, even if it's small, just listening to maybe me and Eric talk about macaroni, or listening to Max talking about grilled cheese, this all counts as something. So it's all working toward what you want and what you want to build. So just keep trying, keep putting in that kind of effort, and anything that you do counts as a form of experience, and you will learn something from it, even if it's small. And I would also say, try and build a really good community around you, a good group of friends. Like, for instance, I've done loads of sound challenges with like Eric, and me and Eric have been friends for ages. I've been friends with Max for ages. Turns out me and Virginia had like the same friend group of emos when we were growing up, and we didn't even realize. So just keeping a really, really good group of people around you that keep you motivated and are really there to support you is a good way that you'll just keep going and keep having the energy to do it.
And one last thing no one mentioned, keep playing video games, right? Because like that's why we're here. I mean, don't forget that the reason why we're all here is because we love video games. I mean, like, keep playing them. I mean, you might be busy, you might not have time, but you gotta keep doing that, because that is the reason why we're here. So keep enjoying those.
Definitely. And finally, Max, any last words?
This I'll be honest, this is a really hard industry. I remember like on that first Halo call, Marty O'Donnell was like, "Are you sure you're prepared for this? Because this is, you know, it's going to be ridiculously challenging." And I was like, "No, like I'm sure it'll work. And there are rough moments for sure. I didn't realize how much relentless like perseverance you need to do this, but as you know, Eric was saying, it's incredibly rewarding and wonderful. And I am echoing Kai here, but I think having a solid community of friends around you is so essential and so important to this. And all of us have had, like, Eric and I have been friends technically since we were like 8 years old. Shocking. We like lost touch for like, our parents hung out as like when we were kids, and then like we lost touch for like decades and randomly ended up like working with the same game developers in college, not knowing that we both went to the same school. Insane. Anyway, I mean, I've had like, you know, Eric, Kai, Virginia, everyone on this, we've like all been very supportive of each other and like had like been there for each other during times when it's been more rough and things have been more like uncertain in the career path. And I can't emphasize how thankful I am for all of you guys, and just thankful for the game audio community in general. So I would say surround yourself with, you know, people who support you and have your back in all this. I think that's essential for all of this, and keep persevering, because I don't know. You never know when like bad things can come in waves, but good things can really come in waves too. And that's always nice. Yeah.
Beautiful. Poetic.
Thank you.
So thank you everyone for tuning in. This wraps up our panel. This is being recorded on Twitch. So don't worry if you felt like you missed out on a part. It will be posted on our YouTube. And you can share it with your friends. So thank you. I will end this stage now. And yeah, see you around. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Catherine.
Everyone. Bye.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Bye-bye.